Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday going into New Year's. Well, today was a slower day. We came in out of the open with a really big win on CTX. Now, as always, I'm going to break down every trade in depth, just step by step. That way, you know exactly how I'm doing what I'm doing. And today we saw a lot of that Christmas-esque price action. What I mean by that is that holiday type price action where, people are clearly stepping away for the New Year's holiday, and we saw that today. And I kept on trying to make it happen, and it was a small green day today, but I just couldn't really get things going the way I really wanted to, like we were able to do for the last few weeks. And so let's break it all down and talk about it because it was a good morning still. Wish it was better though. And so I came in this morning and, of course, I'm gung-ho because the last few weeks have been pretty hot. Last week we had stuff like HXHX, HIHO. We've had these big moves like today, and today we had big moves too, sort of. Weird price action. It reminds me of that SIDU and SOPA, and that's how EKSO was today. Now, it's only watching two stocks into the open today, and those stocks were, I'll show you on the pre-market watch list here. I was watching EKSO and SOPA. Now, both of those actually made significant moves, but the one I made the most money on today was this CTX. Go figure. And so, looking at this from pre-market, you've got a really nice clean setup here. And what this comes down to is we notice we have these lower highs stacked up into the open. So lower high, we're looking, of course, for a break to the upside. That's the only way you can really look at this. No other way to look at this. You got to look for the breakout. Then we look for those pullbacks off the 90 MA, and that's exactly what I was able to do. And so I was able to start the day with a nice note there. And we knew that if we got the break of that downtrend from pre-market, that using the daily time frame, we had range here back up into the next daily highs here towards about 330 and then to 370, past daily levels. And so I knew that we had room here today. And so I come in initially, and I'm able to trade this quite well. And so out of market open, the play here was just taking a breakout from that pre-market structure. And so this gets breaking out after the bell. And massive candle through the highs here. Look at this. This thing breaks out big time. From, you can see here, 290s, it flushes down to 280, reverses all the way back to 313. And so, okay, watching for pullbacks off the 90 MA. It pulls back off the 90 MA. I take my first entry, and we get a little move up into the highs here. And I'm still just watching pullbacks. Back again off the 90 MA. And you can see here we also had confluence for a little supply and demand pivot style trade. Where we've got this past area of consolidation from pre-market. Look at this. Where price moves to the highs, consolidates, and then moves back lower. So you have this rally-based drop type move where this area of consolidation becomes an area of supply. Look over here, once price breaks above, it becomes an area of demand. And so as price pulls back, we know we have confluence there. This is now an area of demand, looking for price off to confirm off that 90 MA, in which it does. We see buyers step in there off the 90 MA, of course, stops at the 90 MA, looking for that resolution higher. And I get a move here to start the morning from 302 all the way to $3.35. So a massive way to start the day. And of course, as this broke structure here, whenever I say break structure, notice how we have this lower high. As it cracks that previous lower high, that's again broken structure. And so now we put in place a higher high. We raise our stop loss to the bottom of the breakout candle, which in this case was above entry. Of course, trimming up into my 1-to-1 risk to reward. And then, of course, as it grabs liquidity underneath the level of resistance that we had that we mentioned over the 330s, right? So we had room to about 330 here today. We broke 330, found sellers, took my full profit. So that was the first trade. It was really nice. And then, of course, I was watching pullbacks. And again, this is the only setup that we really had that looked clean. So I'm looking for continuation. And I'll mind you, I think I got a little bit too aggressive on this today. The reason why I say that, I think what the problem was is, again, I'm so spoiled from the last few days. I found myself coming in a little bit too gung-ho this morning, and I took a little bit too many trades, but we'll break it all down here, and I'll show you why that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Of course, always look back, hindsight 2020. We've had crazy follow through the last few days, and so I was trying to get that to go and provide again today. And taking pullbacks here off the 90 MA, looking to see if we can't hold here off these past lows for the continuation back up through those previous highs. Now, first entry here, of course, was a full-size trade to start the morning. I come back on these re-entries. I'm just taking a quarter size. I didn't love the setup. Risk to reward was not fantastic. We had room back down to the 90 MA, and then, of course, we knew we had resistance stacked overhead. So just small size to look and see if we couldn't get that leg back. Higher risk, a little bit of my profits there. So I gave back about a quarter of my typical R there. And so in this case here, I gave back a very small amount of my profits because this is a fairly nice size win to start the morning. And from there, I give a quarter back. Oh, that's all right. That's pretty frustrating. I give a little bit back there. And then we have where on the 1 minute time frame, first candle to make a new high, it breaks out back over the 90 MA, Stop loss goes to the bottom of this candle. And so again, I take this here. I enter at 318. Stop loss goes to 311 to see if I couldn't get back up into the previous highs. Okay, cool. And so I take that entry, able to do a little bit of something there. Not much. 318 back to 322, about a 4-cent win, but I had 7 cents of risk. So again, sort of lopsided risk to reward there. Yeah. So again, same thing happens. It puts in place these higher lows. And again, I get trying a little bit too aggressive with it. And it's just, loss, small win. And so just having a hard time getting anything going after this big win. I come in with the big win, then I have small loss, then I have small win, then I have small loss, then I have small win. And so all three here, I'm just unable to capitalize. I'm just completely unable to capitalize, and I hate that. But, I have my profit here, so that's fine. And then, so what we have here is we've identified we have supply sitting up here into the highs. We've also identified here we have this trend line resistance stacked overhead off these lower highs from out of the open this morning. Now, price sells off beneath the UAP and your EMAs, then it comes back to reclaim a little bit later in the morning. Now, I didn't take the initial move here because it was super wick heavy off the highs, so I wanted to see it confirm first, and it did. And so as this gets breaking out over this past wick off the high, again, this becomes an area of supply here. And I'm looking for a pivot again. And again, knowing that we had range here up into trendline resistance, able to do a little bit of something here where you can see it breaks over this past high. I take the pullback off the 9 EMA again. I got to move back up into the highs there. I didn't get follow through. I had a little bit left here at 318, looking to see if we couldn't get breaking up higher, and I sold the rest of my entry. But again, 313 to 318 is playing the simple 9 EMA pullback on the break of that previous high. Again, unable to really get anything going where now I've got two small wins here, small win here, small loss, big win. It's just back and forth after the first win. So I was able to stair step a little bit here and add on a little bit of profits, but not able to really take this up any higher. So this first trade here is really all that was really worth talking about. Really, here just follow through sucked. I just feel like I was trying to get too aggressive. And, I guess the thing is you can't really say you're getting too aggressive till after you actually find out the market's not really there today, because when I come in, I'm using that contextual awareness to look back at, say, yesterday or Friday and say, okay, things have been hot. I can get a little bit aggressive. And so until you realize, okay, aren't following through, let me take a step back, you don't really know. And so this was the first thing I traded today. Then after this, I went a whole lot lighter. And so you move on over to AEHL. And this one here, I have a few, I got 2 wins on it and pretty much a flat trade. And again, here it started to reign true even more. And so here we have this big move to the upside. It pulls back, consolidates off the 9 EMA, and I don't love the daily time frame here because you're right underneath. I'll show you here. You're right underneath all of these moving averages. You've got the 20, the 50, the 200 all stacked overhead. And so I was a little bit hesitant to take this. Good reason. But it just looks so good. And I was like, let me just try it with small size. I like the setup. Maybe it's not 100% A+, but let me just risk a little bit here. And so I just took small size. I wanted to see this candle hold and quickly get extending back up into that pre-market, not the pre-market, into the previous high day. It did not. And so I went in and took my exit there rather quickly. And so once it reclaims, it actually breaks trend to the upside here. Look at this. It flushes, reclaims, breaks trend back to the upside over the 9 EMA. Okay, at the back, you can see here. Took it back here, 10,000 shares at 215, able to play it there. And so as you can see, I took it here from 215 on the simple reclaim of the 9 EMA. Stops go at that 9 EMA, which also coincides with this previous low right here. So defined risk being right there at 210, it's about 5 cents of risk. And I got to move here to about 221. So about a 1-to-1 trade. Okay, got that back. Then I come back off the highs. Of course, I know this is the high of day sitting up here. And I try to play it for the breakout. You can see I want to get that break at that high there. And so we break this to the upside here. You can see break this next high, and I get a terrible fill. I'm trying to get an entry off the pullback off the 9 EMA here to see if we couldn't get going back up through those highs. That was a perfect entry, but I got a terrible fill. You can see here at I think it was, 234. And so I just take a full exit at 236 because I wasn't positioned properly on this to have decent risk to reward. You can see I pretty much had, I had less than a 1-to-1 risk to reward here for my entry. Had I had the proper entry, I would have had at least a 2-to-1. For my terrible fill, it just wasn't there. So anyways, rejects off the highs, leave it alone from there because as it fails to break that high of day, this thing is pretty much done for the day at that point. You can see it just pretty much fades the rest of the morning. So that was that. EKSO, I just hated price action on today. I literally made pennies on this. You can see here, it reminded me a lot of SOPA yesterday. Look how wicky this thing was, even through this range here. It's just, look at this. This is where I got sort of out. And the problem is you don't really know where that sentiment sits. Like, are buyers in control? Are sellers in control? I can't look at this and say that we've got accumulation off the lows. I can't say that sellers are in control because we got all these wicks stacked off the highs. Like, I just can't tell who's in control. So I played it here from literally 920s to as you can see here, about a 12-cent win, playing it in this range. But this is a solid 30-cent range from 910 to 940 on just about every single one of these candles. And No thanks. And so I just can't play that either. And so it's a shame. You know, I hate it. I wish it was cleaner today, but it really reminded me of SOPA, and I just couldn't really do anything with it. You know, whenever you lack conviction, you know, you're going to force yourself to have conviction. You can't do that. You know? So then PFSA comes along. This gets breaking out over the high of day, and I'm like, okay, we have more opportunities. The only problem with this, I think the float was a little bit larger. I mean, you have a 74 million share float, but the price action was clean, so I was like, okay, cool, try this. And, you know, breaking out over the highs, pulls back, puts in place a nice higher low off of the 9 EMA. And I take an entry here for the continuation higher. Stops go at the bottom of this candle, and what do you know? Pretty much flat. I get a big enough move to make it risk-free, retest the high of day, then boom, I get stopped out. Okay, small win. You know, at this point of the morning, I was like, all right, CTX, EKSO, AEHL, we know how things are following through. So at this point, I got to start playing a little bit more risk off and more defensive. And so as this broke beneath that past candle's low, I'm just taking a full exit. I'd rather just be out with my profit than give it all back. And then I try to take it again here as it confirms after grabbing liquidity here beneath the 20 EMA. I want to get that breakout back up into this previous high, as you can see here. Looking for this area to hold off the 20 for the move back up into that range. And again, I don't get that. So I get a very small win here because what happens? Look at this again. It tries to get breaking out here. I'm able to take some profits up into these highs. And then it rejects, and I take a full exit. And so overall, ended up taking, again, a very, very small minute win here. You know, and then we had a little penny flip on GRI where this tries to get going, and again, it also fails. The daily chart here was quite awesome. Majorly beat down daily chart. But you look back here from this morning on GRI, you have the simple break of VWAP. I try to take it for the move higher. I get a pretty crappy fill at 30.90. And I'm out full over 31 just because, again, I got a pretty bad fill. And it fails to follow through as well. So, but yeah, so that's the morning recap. I know, slower, smaller day today, but in any case, Green Day recap. I'm hoping that tomorrow, New Year's Eve, is a little bit more fruitful. Friday, or Thursday, excuse me, the market will be closed, of course, for the New Year's Day holiday. So keep that all in mind. But overall, today was a nice day, but only because really, first trade on CTX. Now, I did well in everything else, but I just didn't really have much conviction, but I still traded it well. And that's all I can ask for. So that being said, if you did learn a thing or two from this video, make sure to subscribe for daily content just like this. And of course, make sure to claim your 7-day free trial in the description below to watch me trade these stocks in real time every single day, even on choppy, tricky days like today. Where, of course, you'll also get alerts, education, chat room access, scanners, news, our trading journal, momentum AI, and so much more. And that being said, let me know in the comments below how you did today, and I will see you next time.